Welcome to this explainer. If you're feeling the heavy, exhausting weight of modern hustle culture right now, or if you've been grappling with workplace burnout, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're looking at something truly fascinating. We're going to take ancient wisdom, literally from thousands of years ago, and decode exactly how it applies directly to our modern day boardrooms and that daily corporate grind we all know too well. So it's the ultimate fight or flight question, right? When the pressure is really on, do you just throw your hands up, quit your job, and walk away? Or do you just put your head down, grit your teeth, and keep grinding until you completely burn out? Well, here's a little secret. This exact dilemma, it isn't new. In fact, it's the very same conflict Prince Arjuna faced 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He was entirely overwhelmed by the crushing weight of his duties, and honestly, he just wanted to walk away from the whole shebang. Okay, let's dive into this. We basically have two extreme modern responses to stress. On one side, there's the great resignation, that overwhelming urge to just quit, to completely withdraw from the corporate world just to save our mental health. And then, on the absolute flip side, we have hustle culture, the relentless, exhaustion-inducing grind for that next promotion or that end-of-year bonus. But Chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita completely busts the myth that true peace means running away to the woods, and it equally rejects the idea of blindly working yourself to the bone. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1, the modern workplace burnout; 2, action versus quitting it all; 3, the lotus leaf metaphor; 4, ancient wisdom, modern management; and 5, finding your inner balance. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the modern workplace burnout, the epidemic of performance pressure. So, in our contemporary work environments, professionals are literally losing their identities in this relentless cat and mouse race for external rewards. People are constantly striving to earn more, usually driven by a desire for material stuff. But in the process, we completely lose sight of our true purpose and end up suffering from massive performance anxiety. So why do we feel so incredibly anxious? Well, according to the Advaita Vision, the Gita explains that there are actually 5 causes responsible for any action to happen. These are the right place of work, the doer, the various tools, the different efforts, and lastly, destiny. Now think about that for a second. You, the doer, are just one of 5 factors. This means we absolutely do not have complete control over the final result. Obsessing over a result we can't fully control is exactly what causes so much of our modern-day anxiety. Section 2. Action versus quitting it all. The dilemma of sannyasa versus karma yoga. This brings us right back to Arjuna's fundamental question. Is it better to formally renounce your worldly duties, which is a path known as sannyasa, or should you engage in those duties with detachment, known as karma yoga? To answer that, we really have to define karma yoga clearly. Karma yoga is the path of selfless action. It means performing your duties without being overly attached to the results. Actually, modern psychological research translates this ancient Sanskrit term into the concept of intrinsic motivation. It's highly similar to what psychologists call being in a flow state. You're driven by the value and the purpose of the work itself, rather than purely by external rewards like a bonus or a fancy new title. And here is the definitive answer, straight out of verse 5.2. Renunciation of actions and karma yoga both lead to the supreme goal. But of the two, karma yoga is superior to renunciation of actions. This explicitly busts the myth that just quitting is the answer. Krishna is stating very clearly that engaged, detached action is the superior, safer, and honestly much more practical path for the vast majority of us who live and work in the modern world. And this brilliantly illustrates Section 3, the lotus leaf metaphor, the ancient technology of detached engagement. To explain exactly how we should function at work, Chapter 5 gives us one of the most famous and, frankly, most powerful visual metaphors in all of ancient literature, the lotus leaf. Picture a lotus leaf for a moment. It grows right in the mud, it exists in muddy, murky waters, and yet it remains completely untouched by the water. If you pull a lotus leaf out of a swamp, it is perfectly dry and pristine. The water just rolls right off of it. So, the absolutely crucial point here is, how do you become a lotus leaf manager? Well, it means you engage fully in the mud of business. You don't run away to hide in the forest. You offer all your actions up to a higher purpose. You relinquish that ego of being the sole doer, and because you do that, you remain completely untouched by the water of anxiety. You're highly active in the corporate world for sure, but emotionally insulated from the binding stress of the outcomes. The research we're looking at draws a pretty amazing analogy here to thermodynamics. Think of stressing out over your results as operating in a state of high entropy. It's chaotic, it burns up your mental energy, and it leads directly to confusion and stress. But practicing this detachment, that acts like a system naturally seeking equilibrium. It conserves your mental energy, pulling you into low entropy, giving you absolute clarity and calm, even if you're sitting in the middle of a high-stakes product launch or a brutal board meeting. Section 4. Ancient Wisdom, Modern Management, Karma Yoga in the Boardroom. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this isn't just ancient theology we're talking about here. Modern academic journals, like the International Journal for Multidisciplinary Research, are actively studying these exact concepts, karma yoga, nishkama karma, for workplace effectiveness. And what they're finding is that integrating these principles actually promotes genuine work-life balance, values-based leadership, and incredible employee engagement. It's a real game changer. So what do the practical boardroom applications actually look like? Well, when you drop the ego and that desperate attachment to outcomes, you get ethical leadership, leaders who actually inspire by their own integrity. You get incredible conflict resolution, mostly because you're focusing on the root causes of a problem instead of just aggressively defending your own ego. You foster deep motivation through a shared purpose, and you maintain equanimity, that cool, clear-headed balance, even when the market is extremely volatile. And massive global companies are actively using this. Take a real-world example, India's largest automaker, Maruti Suzuki. They are out there right now training their executives in self and time management using a module based entirely on the Bhagavad Gita. The company specifically noted that identifying these universal principles and applying them to a corporate setting improves efficiency, effectiveness, and actually promotes this kind of effortless style of high-performance work. Section 5. Finding your inner balance. Integrating the wisdom daily. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the corporation and the managers, but what about you? How do you protect your personal mental energy and integrate this ancient framework into your daily routine? Well, the research outlines these 4 highly actionable steps to cultivate detachment and achieve that thermodynamic equilibrium in your own mind. First, accept impermanence. Just know going in that projects and jobs are going to change. Second, perform your duties selflessly, or nishkama karma, focusing purely on the quality of your work, not just the applause at the end. Third, really examine and control your external desires so they don't hijack your focus. And fourth, consciously surrender the outcomes. Doing your best is your duty. The final result, that's out of your hands. Let it go to reduce your anxiety. As verse 5.24 beautifully summarizes, such persons are truly liberated in the Supreme, who are free from lust and anger, who have subdued the mind and realized God. True joy and liberation, becoming what the ancient texts call jivan mukta, liberated while living, that doesn't happen decades from now after you retire, or when you finally quit and move to a remote cabin. It happens right now, today, in the present, right in the middle of your busy life, when you master your restless mind and act with pure, detached intent. So I'll leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to reflect on regarding your own career. When you log into work tomorrow morning, ask yourself, are you working purely for the result, bound tightly by all the anxiety that inevitably comes with it? Or are you working for the purpose, like the lotus leaf, fully engaged in the work, yet perfectly untouched by the muddy waters? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I truly hope this ancient framework brings a powerful new sense of calm to your modern grind. Catch you next time.